With the death of the Pope, there's a lot of looming questions over Rome at this moment. Who's going to be our next leader? Is he going to lead us into more liberal creep? Is he going to reform the church, getting us back to our Roman Catholic roots? Is there going to be a split and a divide, a new reformation that emerges within the Roman Catholic Church at the appointment of this new leader? Man, these are looming questions that are very important for us to discuss today. With Pope Francis, many Roman Catholics being concerned about his actions and his speech has caused many to desire a reformation within Rome, as he has gone to Native American smudging ceremonies of worship. He has told Hindus and Muslims that there are various paths to get to the one God. He's brought idols from other religions into the Vatican. Lots of questions from conservative Roman Catholics and their great concern. If a new pope comes in and keeps going through that liberal creep, is there going to be a divide within Rome and Roman Catholicism, a new reformation? Well, my name is Joshua Lewis, and in this program, I interview Mike Shreve along with my co-host Michael Miller, and we talk about this very reality, this new and unique moment that Rome finds themselves in, a moment that could really be primed for a new reformation and revival within the Roman Catholic Church. You guys stay tuned.
Well, I guess I'm kind of wondering with some of his stances, blessing same-sex couples, not necessarily marrying them in the church, but blessing them, having him give, what was it? Who was it? Let me see my notes here. Who was it that he gave communion to after she had been refused? Nancy Pelosi, after she'd been refused by San Francisco Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone. That's the old mafia godfather name, Cordileone. So I mean, he's done these things. He's had this. He participated in a shaman smudging ceremony, which is like, I don't know how else to look at that other than that's just blatant idolatry. He's done all of these things. I wonder, where does this lead, and how is there? How is what he's done in the past shaping the choice for the next pope coming forward? Like, is there a conservative contingency that is going to really push back hard in, of these 120 that are making these secret ballots? Feel free to comment. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, I do believe that there are definitely conservative elements within the church. And I came up in the 70s and 80s in the charismatic movement. I spoke at many, many Catholic charismatic meetings, and it was huge back then. It was like this big barrier between Protestants and Catholics. And incidentally, I don't like to be called a Protestant. That implies you're just protesting something. I like to be called a promoter of the truth. But there were nuns and priests that came to my meetings so hungry for God, and they would come in and get born again and baptized in the Holy Spirit and fall out under the power of God and stay there seeking God and worshiping God for hours. And I would love to see that again. And when I wrote my book, The Beliefs of the Catholic Church, and we did a program on it before, I did that partially because God spoke to me, woke me up one morning, and I heard the words "Adveniat regnum tuum." Now, I don't think either of you would probably be familiar with that.
I took Latin in middle school, but I don't remember it.
Oh, you did? Well, I repeated that statement thousands of times as an altar boy. It's one line out of the Lord's Prayer: "Your kingdom come," or "Thy kingdom come." Adveniat regnum tuum. And I have a book where I keep all my prophetic visitations that God gives me. And I wrote in there, like 10 years ago, when this happened, I wrote in there, this must mean there's going to be another great move of God in the Catholic Church, and I'm supposed to be a part of that. And I buried that in that book and didn't rediscover it until I was involved in this outreach that I'm involved in now. And so I do believe God's got a divine design, and if he has his way in the whirlwind, he can have his way in the conclave with those 120 cardinals that are coming together.
I remember when I was coming out of Pentecostalism, I still believe in the gifts of the Spirit, right? I'm still I would claim the Protestant persuasion pretty happily. I'd be fine saying protesting. Yeah, I'm still doing that. And then but of that persuasion, when I came out of that Pentecostalism and I realized, oh man, I don't believe in initial physical evidence, and I don't know that I'm down with second blessing in the way that it's being articulated here. And I was like, once I realized there was a hole in my boat, I started looking around, going, "Is there any other holes in my boat?" Like just trying to re-examine all of my doctrines that I've been raised with to say what's true and what's not. And I hope that in some sense, this is the same thing that Rome is going through when they begin to identify, hey, there's an individual that we have given undue power and undue authority that the scriptures certainly do not command. And maybe it doesn't forbid, but it certainly doesn't command. And then they go, okay, well, this guy, he's leading us down a dangerous path. This is bad. I wonder if there's any other holes in our boat. I wonder if there's any other kind of doctrines and theologies that may be undermining the validity and truth of Christ's death, burial, resurrection, and the salvation he's given to the world. I'd be curious, could you maybe walk us through? I know you mentioned the conclave a little bit and that process of voting, kind of secretively, as in no media is present, and how they, do the burning with the chimney, and whatever smoke comes out, we figure out whether they've made a decision or not. But who are the potential candidates for this next role of the Pope? And do you have any thoughts about any of them that are potentially coming into this position? Whether more liberal, more conservative, this would be a good guy. That guy probably not so great. And again, we're talking about Roman Catholicism, so I don't know that you're going to be able to pick someone who would be, how would you say, a promoter. I would say I'd be looking for a Protestant in that list, and I can't find one. But like, could you maybe walk us through the hit list of people that could potentially fill this role, and the harm or benefit that they could bring to the office?
Well, I don't have the whole list, but there are 22 papal candidates, or candidates who could be placed in the papal role. And probably the one that a lot of people have their eyes on is presently the Secretary of State at the Vatican. And he's a very conciliatory person. He knows how to diplomatically shift around in relationships with various nations. And of course, as you mentioned, there's a lot of different divisions of Catholicism. A lot of people don't know there's 24 specific divisions. They're all aligned with the Pope, but Roman Catholicism is the largest. I believe it's about 98% plus. So the others don't have a large percentage attached to them. But the main guy, and I hope I pronounce these names right. I'm not real good at pronouncing Italian names or French names, but he's Cardinal Pietro Parolin from Italy, and he's the Vatican Secretary of State, known for his diplomatic skills and alignment with Francis's vision. And that's a big deal. Francis was behind the appointment of a lot of cardinals that are liberal in their stance. And so it kind of packed the court, so to speak. And that's my concern, that we'll just see a continuation of what Pope Francis did. And let me insert something here that I haven't said yet. And I'm glad you brought up the smudging ceremony. And that took place in Canada back in 2022. And a shaman celebrated a smudging ceremony where he spoke to the spirits of the north, south, east, and west, welcomed them into the room. It was a very occult ceremony, but the whole purpose of it was to repair the damaged relationships with the indigenous people and the mistreatment they received by the Catholic Church at a certain point in history. And I agree with the humility attached to that, but I don't agree with the method. Because yes, you can have a penitential visit where you express remorse over the mistreatment of indigenous people in Canada, in South America, but not to the point of accepting false gods or false religious practices. But anyway, to get back to your question, the next in line is Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle. I believe is how you pronounce it, from the Philippines. He's the pro-prefect of the dicastery for evangelization, and he's a very progressive voice from Asia. And then you have Cardinal Peter Turkson from Ghana, and he's an advocate for social justice. Cardinal Peter Erdo, who is a very conservative theologian. So you have a representation across the spectrum. And then Cardinal Angelo Scola, known for his conservative stance and his theological expertise. So you have them on both sides. I would not be surprised, though, if the majority tend to lean toward Cardinal Pietro Parolin from Italy, who would be a continuation of the policies of Pope Francis.
That does seem to be what I've heard online as well. And I wonder if both could give an opportunity for reform within Roman Catholicism. Because if you have a guy who is going to pick up the mantle, if you will, of Pope Francis and carry it further than Francis carried it on that kind of liberal creep side, you're going to have conservative Catholics
Yeah, we
wanting
have a
change.
reaction.
They're going to be a reaction. It's kind of like what we saw with, here in the West with kind of liberal politics. They've taken things so far that, man, the most liberal among us, guys like Bill Maher, sound conservative now because it's like, we've gone way too far. Let's pull back the reins, guys. And not to say that he's any right winger by any stretch of the imagination, but still, you see
No,
all
we
of
have
these
a
people.
Democratic Kennedy that's in that's on the team, and which is ironic considering, I mean, Kennedys have always been Democrat, and so
Yeah.
yet they're the Republican ticket here. I mean, currently occupying the White House. So it is ironic, and there has been such a massive response. I imagine there will be one in Catholicism as well if another liberal candidate becomes pope.
I mean, you've got the Joe Rogans of the world, the Elon Musks, the Kennedy you mentioned, RF Kennedy. You've got Bill Maher. You've got, I mean, there's a huge swath of influencers. I don't know what to call them, famous celebrity types who, because of how far the liberal space has gone, has caused them to kind of go back to the ancient paths, as you were, quote from Jeremiah, trying to go back to the ways that these have been staples and hallmarks for our nation. We should protect these things. And I only mean to say, by way of comparison, you could have a very conservative leader get in and try to reform the church. That would be good. You could also have a very liberal leader get in and that stir up a reformation within the Roman Catholic Church. That would also be good. So, I mean, I pray that, and I think we should pray for people who aren't Roman Catholic. Hey, there's a Roman Catholic leader that's going to be appointed. That's going to affect the lives of millions and millions of people. We should be praying for this, that God would use it to accomplish his glory. And to save souls out of people who may be mixing idolatry, maybe mixing sexual immorality into their faith, maybe mixing and justifying these kinds of activities. Pray that, man, the leader that God puts in power over Rome would spur on the church as a whole into reformation. I think that would be good and godly. I think it'd be right. We monologued a little bit here. Mike, do you have any thoughts on any of that we've just said?
Well, I'll be very interested to see which way the church leans, because I know with Pope Francis, the voices that were lifted up against him were ostracized. In fact, one of them, Cardinal Vigano, I believe is how you pronounce his name, Carlo Maria Vigano, he was actually excommunicated because he raised his voice against the liberal policies to such
Wow.
degree. And that was major, to excommunicate a cardinal. Now, what if things dramatically shifted where he would become a hero instead of a maligned person? That would be just as interesting as what's been happening in the United States of America. And certainly God can get involved in it. And I pray that he will get involved in it. And, there's 1.3 to 1.4 billion Catholics in the world. That's half of professing Christians. 2.6 billion people in the world profess Christianity. That's a huge block of people that are impacting the entire globe. And what if they had leaders that impacted them toward truth? There would be a ripple effect that would be just absolutely amazing. And I would dare to say that when I was an altar boy, I loved God intensely. I didn't know God. Jesus said, "This is life eternal, that they might know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent," in John 17. It's not important just to know about God. It's important to have a personal relationship with God. And that never happened to me as an altar boy. But I must admit, I don't think anybody loved God any more than I did, but I just didn't have that connection. I wasn't spiritually awakened. I wasn't born again. And there's millions of Catholics that I admire because of their fervency, their passion. Listen, to be a priest or a nun or a monk or a bishop or a cardinal, and to deny yourself the beauty of a marriage relationship and children, and to live a celibate life. Now, some may have false motives or perverted motives, as has been proven in the past, but I believe probably the majority of them just wanted to please God to such degree that they would impose on themselves that kind of self-denial. That's admirable. And if they have that kind of passion, I would urge them to start exploring all the doctrines of the Catholic Church that are questionable.
There's a lot more that we can say about Roman Catholicism that we don't have time to tackle today, but I do want to let you know, if you're a longtime Protestant and you're looking to do a deep dive into Christian theology, I would encourage you to check out our course, An Introduction to Christian Theology, where we do a deep dive throughout the historic Christian faith. We do the doctrine of the Trinity. We do theology proper when we talk about who's the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. We discuss Christology. We give you 10 lectures on Christ. We give you 5 lectures on the work of the Holy Spirit. We walk through what is ecclesiology, that's the doctrine of the church. What is eschatology, the doctrine of the end times. We give you over 40 lectures doing a deep dive through historic Christian faith. If that's something you're interested in, check out the link in the description or the note up here at the top of the video. And if you're out there and you're like, hey, I'd actually just like to watch the full interview with Mike Shreve, that video will post next week, but I'll put a link of it up here when it's out. Or maybe you want to know why we're Protestant. I've got a video that I filmed here with Gavin Ortland that you might be interested in.